Today we're going to be looking at Excel intermediates, like essentials in Excel. We are going to look at sorting data, how to use tables in Excel, how to filter data. We'll define some names, and then we're going to create charts. We're going to move into creating charts, column charts, pie charts. We're going to look into different formatting tools, and then we're going to go into pivot tables. And after pivot tables, we'll touch briefly on VLOOKUPs, because I know people ask me a lot about VLOOKUPs, so we will get to it today. I have a simple data here, and this is a bike shop. They sell different types of items. They sell a snowboard, bike, and they have salespeople, different ones. They have regions. So this looks like, like data you get from like a shop that you might want to analyze and, sort and filter. The first thing we're going to do with this table is, if, for instance, you want to check Andrews, for instance, you want to know what Andrews are sold. You cannot just scroll down and start looking for Andrew. You need to find a way to sort this data. And before you can sort, you have to find a way to filter the data. So the first thing to do is, if you click anywhere on the data, if you click on data up here, you can just click on filter. And what that does is it will put these arrows on the headers. So if you click on the arrow, for instance, products, we can see from here that there are only 3 products on this table, which is bike, skateboard, and snowboard. If we click on region, we can see that we have Atlantic, Northeast, Pacific, and Southwest. So we only have 4 regions here. We click on the salesperson. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 salespeople. So filter helps you to look at data quickly. If I filter, for instance, I want to see how Andrew is doing. I will just unselect all and then click on Andrews and OK. And what happens is it only shows me Andrew. Every other person is still there, but hidden in the row. So it would hide the rows of all the other people and just bring Andrew. If you want to release the filter, you can just select all. Okay. I will undo that. You can do clear filter from salesperson. If we want to filter by region, I want to see how Pacific is doing. If you click on Pacific, and then you can just filter by Pacific, and you have a whole list for Pacific. And anytime if there's a question, please drop it on the chat. I will check the chat as we go along and answer your questions. One other thing we can use, I'm going to clear the filter from region. One other thing we can do with this is we can sort this data, and the filters would help you sort. So if I click on salesperson, I can sort from A to Z. If I sort from A to Z, it will sort the whole data. So I have Andrews first, Benson, and so on in alphabetical order. I'm going to undo that. I can sort in region. I can sort, for instance, Z to A in region. And then I have Southwest first, I have Pacific, I have Northeast. So you can use this to sort. If it's a number, it will ask you if you want to sort from smallest to largest. So once it recognizes what you have on that column, it will give you the option to sort from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. If you notice, when we're on salesperson, it won't give us that option because those are not numbers. You can only sort that by A to Z or Z to A. But if it recognizes that these are numbers, then it would give you the option to sort from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. On the other hand, if you look at this column A, These are dates. When you click on that, it will give you the option to sort from oldest to newest or newest to oldest, because it recognizes that these are dates. And you can see the filter here. It will group it according to the year. It will group according to year, according to month. So if, for instance, I only want to see, what happened in 2017, April, all you need to do is select April, and there are only just 2 rows here. So it would group it according to, it will give you options according to what the data you have on your table. I'm going to clear the filter. If, for instance, if I have quite a number of filters on this table, I'm going to filter by, I'm going to pick 2017, filter by Gavin and Murray. And let's assume I filter by skateboard and snowboard. So I have a couple of filters on this table. I have a filter on column A, I have a filter on column C, and you can see where you have your filters. You see the arrow, you see the filter. You can see that that is different to here. So I know that I have a filter here. I have a filter activated here. So I filter the salesperson, I filter the region. So in total, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 filters. If I want to clear the filters on this table, instead of going to each column and clearing the filter, I can just clear from the taskbar here. And what this does, this clear button is, it will clear everything all at once. So there are some tables that you don't know if they are filtered. Once you see this clear button highlighted, if you can click it, that means there's a filter activated on that table. So I'm going to clear this. And once I clear it, it will clear all the filters all at once. You can see that this clear is not highlighted anymore because there's nothing to clear. So if you have a table, like if you open like a spreadsheet and you don't know if there are filters, like it might be like a big spreadsheet. If you go to this data and look at the clear button, if the clear button is highlighted, if you can click it, that means there's a filter somewhere on that table. But if you cannot click it, then you know that there's no filter. So that's how to apply filters. You can do a total, a subtotal for this table. So for instance, you want to find the total probably by region, and you want to do a subtotal. So a subtotal is a total, below the grand total. What you need to do is, you need to sort it first. So I think we've already sorted by region. So I'll start from by region, A to Z. That's where I want my subtotal. And then there's a button here called subtotal. So if I click on subtotal here, it brings up a dialog box. It's going to ask me what I want to add the total to. So I'm going to say at each changing, when the region changes, I'm going to move this to the side. At each changing region, so when the region changes, I want you to use the sum function, and I want a total on what do I want to add? I want to add the unit. I want to add the total, or I might decide to add the unit price or units. Let's do units. So I want the total of units per that region. So I want the subtotal added to units. And I'm going to, I want the summary below data, replace, there's no subtotal anyway. So when it's going down at each change in region, once the region changes, add a total for me to units. That's what I'm saying. And then, okay. And if we go down, we can see that at the end of Atlantic, I have a total, a subtotal for my units. When you get to the end of Northeast, I have a subtotal. And then Pacific has a subtotal, and all the way down. And if you look at the side to my left, you can see that it's giving me like 3 extra columns here, 1, 2, 3. And this is my subtotal level. So at a glance, if I want to filter this, I just want to see the total. If you click on 1, that will show you the grand total for everything. If you click on 2, it will show you the total per region, and 3 will just release all the filter. So once you use the subtotal, it will create this group, it will group it for you, so you can easily see it all at once. I'm going to clear all this subtotal. Okay, let's subtotal. Remove all. So I'm going to remove all subtotal. So if you click on subtotal, remove all, it would remove all the subtotal. And a more efficient way to group this data is using a pivot table. So my data filtering, okay. So you can create a pivot table from this data. And a pivot table makes it so easy to analyze your data and to like summarize your data. So what a pivot does is it will summarize the data for you. So if you want to use the data in a presentation, you can either use a pivot table or we'll get to charts later. To create a pivot table, I would go to data, go to insert, and there is an option here, pivot table. If I click on pivot table, I'm going to move this to the side so you can see. It would select the data that it thinks you want to put on a pivot table. So you can see that there's something going on around this data. So it's copied this data. So this is what it's going to put on a pivot for me. And it's going to ask me where I want this data. Where do I want this data? Do I want it in a new worksheet? In which case, it will create a new tab for me without pivot. Or do I want it in an existing worksheet? So if you click on an existing worksheet, it would ask you where you want the pivot. So you can just click anywhere beside, and that is where it will place the pivot. In this case, let's put it on a new, let me put it on this existing so we can compare side by side. So I want it on an existing worksheet. So I've clicked where I want the pivots and then okay. And this is my pivot. So what it does is it will create a blank template for you to now drop whatever you want to do on the pivot. So this is my pivot. It's created it for me. And then I have my pivot table field. So anytime you click on that pivot, it comes up with your pivot table fields. And this is where you can start, analyzing and picking the way you want your data to look. So in this case, I want to group by, I want to group this by, let's assume I group by salesperson. I want to see how my salespeople are doing. So I want the salesperson on the row. So I can just drag that to the row column. And then I want to know what they are selling, how many units they are selling. I'll put this unit on the value. So these are my salespeople, and these are the units. So at a glance, I know that Andrews has sold 157 units. Murray has sold 1223. And I also want to analyze this. What region are they selling this in? Let me put my region. I can put my region as a filter. So I have my region as a filter. So if I go to region, I can filter and just look at probably Atlantic, okay? And that shows that Benson sold 119 items in Atlantic. Davis 7, Murray, Park, Selby 476. If you want your pivot table field to show again, just click anywhere on the pivot and it brings up the field. So I can decide that, I want to see the products they are selling. So I know Benson has sold 119, but what are these products? I can just drag this product and put it under salesperson. And at a glance, I will see that Benson sold 44 bikes, 27 skateboards and 48 snowboards in Atlantic, under Atlantic, which is what I have as my filter here. To make the display nicer, you can change the settings of this pivot table. So if you right click anywhere on the pivot table, you have some options that would come through. If I go to pivot table options, you can pick different options here. You can choose to have totals on your pivots or not have totals, like total, like this grand total. You can choose to have it or not. Display, I like to use the classic pivot table display because what happens when you use the classic, you can drag items on your pivot table. So you can actually move it from one place to the other. I'm going to show you what it does now. So I've clicked my classic pivots, okay? I'm just going to move this to the side. So I can actually drag things on the pivot. So like skateboard, I want skateboard to appear first. You can actually click on skateboard and drag it up. And then you see that it changes for everybody. So I can see skateboard first, then bike, then snowboard. If I want to see snowboard first, I can literally just move it. As long as I move it somewhere, then it would arrange it like that. It will arrange everybody like that. So that's, this is Atlantic. If you want to see northeast, all you need to do is select northeast, and you can see that Andrews only sold skateboard in northeast. If you want it the other way around, is you want to see the skateboard first and then see the people selling the skateboard. So you want to analyze by the product as against the salesperson. All you need to do is the product here, just move it on top of salesperson. And you can see that it will show you the product first, then the salesperson, and then the total. So depending on what you want to see, you can actually move this anyhow you like to analyze. So if you're not analyzing by, salesperson, start with the salesperson. If it's by region, you can also bring the region back down here and take it off the filter. So you start with region, snowboard. So you can literally just drag and you can cut and dice this data in different ways. You can choose to on the region, we have a filter here. So let me go back to select all, okay? And this is everything. I just want to see what these regions are doing. I don't care about the product they're selling or the sales people. All I need to do is I'm going to unselect salesperson and then unselect products. And then I have the units they're doing. If I want to know the total they're selling, I don't want units this time around, I want total. So I will just unselect units and replace with total. And then you have this. And of course, like we did yesterday, you want to format this, you can easily do that. I want this in pounds, you can change that to pounds. You can drag the column to accommodate it. I don't want the 2 decimal places. All you need to do is remove it using this button. And this is my total per region. I'm going to put region back in filter. I'm going to bring salesperson back. And then I have the total per salesperson. And if I want to, there are other ways. You can also add other things to your pivots. You can add a chart to your pivots, but we will come back to charts later. You can also sort your pivots. So I'll go to data. Sometimes it doesn't let you filter the pivot. So it's not letting you filter. You can add slicers to your pivots. So if I go to pivot table tools, I can insert a slicer. And what a slicer does, I will insert a slicer. That's What a slicer does is it's part of filtering, so it can also help you to filter. So let's assume I'm filtering by, I want to filter by region, or probably let's do products. Okay. And this is my slicer. So this is another filter that I can add on to it. And if I want to like just see bike, if I select bike, this is just the amount for bike. If I select skateboard, this is the amount for skateboard. And if I select snowboard, this is the amount for snowboard. So as long as the sum of your table will always match your pivot, as long as you've selected every item on your table. But I always say it's always good to like do a check just to make sure that you have selected every part of your table. And to know if you have selected every part of your table, if you click on your pivots, if you go to your pivot table tools, and if you go to change data source, change data source will show you what you have selected. So I can actually go down and just make sure that I have selected every part of my table. So you can see that selection going around it. So this is just to make sure I have selected everything. I will just cancel that. And that is pivot. You can dice it, you can chop and dice it anyhow you like. Some slicers, some versions of Excel, they don't have slicers here. So depending on your version, you might not have slicer. I've used versions that don't have slicer, but you can always like add any filter to the pivot itself. So if you want to pivot, if you want to filter by more than region, all you need to do is just add the filter here. So you don't really need the slicer. And that is pivot table. We're going to look at charts, creating charts. Okay. We're going to look at creating charts in Excel. Let's see. This is for chart. I'm just going to delete all this. Okay. So once you create a simple chart in Excel, so I have this data from ABC company, and we want to, what chart does is it takes away the numbers, it helps you visualize the data you are presenting. So it's always good for presentation, and it makes it very colorful. And people who don't really like numbers, they can actually see at a glance what is happening with your data. There are different types of charts, and you can get them on the insert button here. I will select my data first, which is the first thing you do. So this is January, February, March data for ABC company for North, South, East, and West. And I want to present this data in a chart. I have different chart options I can use here. If you click on the chart button, if you click on this, it comes up with different charts. And at a glance, you can actually see what your charts will look like. If you go to all charts, we have the line charts, and this is what it looks like. They're just lines. And you can use different options here. So if we pick this one, for instance, and the good thing is it already shows you what it would look like. So before you even pick it, you can see, you have an idea of what it would look like. If I pick this one and click OK, this is my line chart. I'm going to move this aside. So this is my line chart. Here. And when you click on the data, like the yellow line, you can see the data highlighted. So it shows me that that is West. So West is yellow, North is blue. You can change the colors. So there are some colors you can change the group of colors. You might not be able to change, you won't be able to change the individual colors, but you can change the group of colors. So for instance, if your organization's color is closer to, let's say, Looking forward. Charts too. Let me go back to charts too. Chart design. Okay. I was looking for the colors. You can change your colors here. So the colors are grouped. So it's either you have this group, which is more blue, or you can have all blue. So you can pick your colors depending on like your organization's color. If it's green, you can use this green. What you can do is you can't mix and match. You have to pick one of these groups, unfortunately. I'm not aware that you can like mix and match these colors, but you can pick a group that better aligns with probably what you're doing. Let's look at this. This is very colorful. And these are called legends. So it will show you what the colors mean. And you can change this here. You can change the style by clicking on the paintbrush. So if we pick this, for instance, it makes it stand out more with the colors we picked. You can change where your you can change where your chart, you can change your chart, you can pick your chart elements here. So for instance, this is a chart title. If I don't want a chart title, if I unselect that, then I don't have a chart title anymore. If I pick it, then I have a chart title. And you can actually click inside this chart and put like, you can type over it. So I can put like ABC company. So you can change your chart title. There are other elements that you can pick here. You can, if you put a data table, it inputs your data here. You have a chart title, axis title. Axis title, you can actually type here. This is like Rabi sales. So if you make this sales, and then months, which is not really necessary. So you can just like try different things with your chart. You have the paintbrush that you can use to pick like different options of the chart. And then you have this that shows, this is like so you can use this to like filter. So you can unselect all, you can just put, if you put only January, so this you can use as filters. Apply. And then I filtered 2 regions out. I'm going to go back and select all. So this is your line chart. We can actually do different types of charts. Let's do column charts. I would select, I would go to insert, and then I want a column chart. All charts, I want column charts. This is a more common chart type, okay? And then I have it here. I can literally just drag it to wherever I want it. So all you need to do is click on it, hold your left mouse button down, and just drag it to wherever you want it to be. And you can copy a chart. So I can click on it, right click, copy, click somewhere else, and paste. And then you can cut and paste. So you can do different things with the charts. This is a column chart. All the buttons work the same as the line chart. You can change your options here on the side. What you can do again is you can change a chart type from like column to like a line chart. So if we click on it, if we go back to our chart tools here, I can change chart type. If I click on change chart type, I can pick another type of chart. If we do area, for instance, let's pick this one, and okay. And then we have an area chart. So this is an area chart. We can change it to something else. We can change the colors. Let's pick another color. Let's change it to more interesting. Let's look at Sunburst. Let's look at Sunburst. So this is a Sunburst chart. Another type of chart we can do a pie chart, which is also another common type of chart. We want to do a pie chart because it does it in percentages. So I'm just going to select January. I'm going to do insert, and I can pick my pie chart here. Let's pick this, and this is my pie chart. You can do pie over pie, like when you want to like concentrate on some particular areas. If we select this data here, insert, I'll open up my chart, all charts. Under pie, this is pie over pie, and that is what it will look like. So what happens is it will concentrate, it will bring out the smallest, bring out the section and expand that section. So we can change, let's change this, let's do this, and then we can see the percentages. We can change this to bar over pie. So there are other options here. I would go back to change chart type, and this is a bar over pie. I'll change it to bar over pie, and that is what it looks like. So you can choose to put these percentages there, or you can choose to remove them. So you can just play around. This is how you create your charts. And you can really play around with them to make them look very interesting. And one thing we can also do is from a pivot table, we can create a chart. If you go back to our pivot table, I will delete this slicer. And it's just literally just clicking on it and deleting it. So what I want to do, I want to convert this to a chart. So I have my pivot table. I want to convert it to a chart. I can go to my pivot table tools, and I have a pivot chart on my pivot table tool. So if I click on my pivot chart, it will ask me what chart I want to create. Let's create column. We can do column. Let's do column chart. Something more interesting. Yeah. There's the column charts. Okay. So we have a column chart. And I'm going to close this field. And this is our table. This is our chart. This chart represents our pivots. It's exactly the same as our pivots. So if we filter, for instance, let me filter by just Pacific and Southwest. And then our chart will change. We can filter by salesperson. Gavin Murray. And that's just Gavin and Murray. So whatever you do on your pivots, your chart will mirror that. And whatever you do on the chart, your pivots will mirror that. So this is another way, of analyzing your pivots further. If you want to put a chart on a presentation, then you can just link your chart to can use a pivot chart, which is linked to your pivot table. So that is a pivot chart. I'll clear the filter. Okay. And then I can clear filter from salesperson. What other thing can we do with our pivots? Our pivot table tools. On the pivot table as well, you can actually put formulas in. One thing you can't do with pivot, you cannot change the items in your pivots. So for instance, if you cannot type over this amount it will come up with a dialog box that you can't change this part of the pivot. So if you want to do like any calculation, you have to actually do those calculations inside as a calculation inside the pivot. So you can use a calculated field. I don't think we'll be able to get there today. So you can use a calculated field to actually calculate a field. So as you're doing your pivot, your calculated field might be calculating like a variance or a difference between this and this. So you can actually do that. So that's pivot and pivot charts. We're going to be looking at some simple. Oh, okay. There was something I forgot. And that is tables. We haven't looked at tables. Creating tables in Excel. So this is like this is data, but it is not in a table format. If tables are very useful in Excel because it kinds of automates what you do. So like if you are putting in a formula on a table, it would know, it can sense what you're doing and just do it for your old data. So for it, let me change this to a table and then we'll do something. Insert. I'm going to select everything. And you can select by just clicking on the first cell, holding your mouse button down until you get to the last one, or you can actually, click the first one, and just use your Control and Shift button and your down arrow to select all the way down, which is what I've done. So if you press down your Control and your Shift button, it will select plus the down arrow, it will select everything down. And I've done it the other way around with my up arrow. So Shift Control, down arrow, and that will select everything down. And we can actually change this data to table. Let's see, where is table? Yeah. So this is table. If I click on table, it says, you can see that it selected my data and it says, where is the data for your table? So this is the data for my table. And I've indicated that my table has headers. So, okay, if I click OK, you can see what has happened is it has changed this data to a table. So I can use the table functions to analyze this data. And you can change your the format of your table using these buttons here. So there are different ones. You can change that format depending on how you want it, or maybe in line with your document, your organization's color. So this is a table, and what the good thing about table is it helps you work faster. So for instance, I want to. Andrew sold 24 units at 4,800. I want to find a total. I want to multiply this 24 by 4,800. If I do it on the first cell, for instance, or probably if I find an average, let's do an average. So I have my average here. That's what I want to do. Can you see that option? It's already, so what a table does is it will come up with all these options that will make your work faster. If I do equal to this, I want to find an average divided by the number of units. Enter. I have this option. I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to undo that. Equal to my unit price divided by units. Enter. It comes up with this option and it's asking me, do I want to like do the same all the way down? So instead of like dragging the formula all the way down, clicking that will do it for me. So if I click that, overwrite all cells in this column, it will just do the same for every single thing. So tables actually make your work, a lot faster. You can summarize with a pivot. So if you click here, it already knows what you want. So you can do a pivot table from this. I'm going to cancel this. I need to do a pivot here. You can remove duplicates. So if you have duplicates in this data and you want to remove the duplicates, if you click on this, it would remove the duplicates. You can insert slicer, like we inserted on the pivots, on the data. So it also works very well to analyze your data. We're going to look at a simple formula we're going to look at, no, not simple formula. We're going to look at VLOOKUP. Okay. So what VLOOKUP is a lookup function. If you have like a long list of data and you want to bring in a particular field from that data, as long as so what you're telling Excel is bring out this particular field as long as you find this particular item. Example, so I have some sales rep here. I have Joe, I have Susan, I have Bradley, Tim, and Laura. And let's assume this is like a long spreadsheet with lots of sales rep on it. And so I have Joe Johnson. I want to we can see from here that Joe sold a total of sold 6,950 in January, 8,875 in April. The total for Joe between January and June is 51,575. So I have Joe somewhere on this spreadsheet, and I want to bring in the total for Joe here. Using a VLOOKUP, remember, before you type a formula in, you have to start with equal to. And I will bring up the dialog. I can actually use the formula here. I'll teach you. I'll look at two methods. So VLOOKUP is under lookup and reference. And if you don't know where VLOOKUP is, there's this search box here. So if you type in VLOOKUP, it would actually, show you. It will bring up VLOOKUP. So you might not know where VLOOKUP is. You can usually use the search button. So you can use this search button here to bring it up. It might look different in different Excel versions, but you always usually find something like this that you can use to look for that formula. So lookup, VLOOKUP is under lookup. So I can just go to lookup. I'm looking for VLOOKUP. So VLOOKUP. And once you click on VLOOKUP, it brings a dialog box out. And the first thing it will ask you for is the lookup value. So what are you looking up? We know here we're looking up Joe. I'm looking for Joe because I want to bring in the total for Joe. So instead of typing Joe Johnson here, I'm going to click on Joe here because I want to reference that cell so that when I drag my formula down, then it would work for the others. So I want to look up Joe, and it's going to ask me, what table am I looking this data up from? I need to select my table. And when you select your table, always make sure that your first column has what you're looking up. So your first column has to be that lookup value. So my first column has to be B. It has to be where my sales rep are. So I can just select my table, starting with B, and I've just selected it up to the side. So that is my table. You can see it's highlighted. And then the column index is asking me, what column do you want the data from? You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 columns on this table. And what I want is, I want it from column 8. So this is column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want you to bring whatever you find on column 8 for Joe Johnson. I want it to bring it. So I'm going to put 8 here. And my range lookup is either true or false. If it's true, it would bring in anything that looks like Joe Johnson, not exactly Joe Johnson, anything that looks like it, that is similar to it, that is what it would bring. If you put false, it would only look for Joe Johnson, and that is what it will bring to that cell for you. So I'm going to use false because I only want Joe Johnson. False. I'm going to type in false there and okay. Okay, why is it? Yeah. And okay. And you can see what it has brought here. It has brought this total amount for Joe Johnson. And if I want the same for the others, so this is Susan, Bradley, Tim, and Laura. All I need to do is click on that cell and drag the formula down. And you have to make sure that you put your cursor at this bottom right. When it changes, when your cursor changes, hold your mouse button down and drag the formula down. And you can see that Susan is brought in 74, Bradley 41, Tim 50. If we try that again, if we want to bring in, let's say we want to bring in April figure. So this is April. I want to bring in April figure. I'm going to do that again. And I'm going to just type this in. So it would be, if you start with equal to, if you type your VLOOKUP and open a bracket, it would ask you, you can see that it comes up with a small dialog box. So once you type in your function, it will come up with this small dialog. And you can see that once you open your bracket, it's asking you to put in your lookup value. And my lookup value is Joe Johnson. So if I click on Joe Johnson, if you put a comma, it would highlight the next thing you need to do, which is the table array, which is what table do you want to look this up from? And then I can just select my table here. And then you put a comma, and then it would highlight column index number. Column index number is the number of column, that column you want it from. We want the April figure, and the April figure will be on column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will be on column 5. So I will just put 5, comma, and then it wants me to, if you can see my screen, you can see that true is an approximate match and false is an exact match. So I want false, so I would put in false. And then I will close my bracket, enter. And you can see that what that's brought in is Joe, April. And if you drag this down, it will bring in the same April for all these people. Let's assume I have a name here that is not on the table above. Let's assume we have a Carl Joe, for instance. So this is a big table. I don't even know that Carl is not here on this table. If I drag this formula down, this is what happens. It will tell you, it will put an NA. And what NA means is that Carl Joe is not on this table. That's all interesting. Okay. So we'll tell you that Carl Joe is not on this table by bringing it NA. So you know that you cannot find Carl on the table. One thing VLOOKUP does is if the value you are looking up, if it's not unique, then it would only bring in the first value. So that's the shortcoming of VLOOKUP. If, for instance, you have another, let's see, another Susan on this. Let's assume we have another Susan on this table. And then this Susan is 5,007. I'm just putting in figures. And then this Susan, so we have a Susan That's 74. We have another Susan, whose total is 7,007. If you do a VLOOKUP for Susan, even though Susan, I'm just going to, yeah, so that's the table. Even though we have two Susan Williams on this table, it would only bring in the first one it finds on that list. So it would only look for the first Susan. Once it finds the first Susan, that's it. It just brings that in. So to do a VLOOKUP, always make sure that the data you're looking up is unique, so you don't have duplicates. And the way to find that is you can actually use a conditional, you can use conditional formatting to check if your data is unique or not. Otherwise, if you do a VLOOKUP with data that is not unique, then your values will be wrong. So I can check if this data is unique. If I select this, if you click on, go to Home, Conditional Formatting, highlight cells. So I want this to highlight duplicate values. So I want to be able to see if my data is unique or not. So it comes up with a dialog box, duplicate, field, light red field with dark red text. Okay, that's the way I want my duplicate. So you can see from here that Susan is highlighted. So Susan is a duplicate. And if it's like a long, very long spreadsheet that you won't see everything at a glance, all you need to do is filter your data and then filter by color. So when you filter by color, then you can see all the ones that are duplicates on that spreadsheet. And you can either not use a VLOOKUP, or you find like something unique. You can create like a unique column that will make your data unique, but we can't get into that today. But always make sure your data has no duplicates. So I'm going to clear filter from this. Okay. Another way, another formula I want to show us is the sum if. The sum if formula. I'm going to delete all this. Let's do sum if quickly. So we've got, I'm just going to put some colors here. Blue, green, yellow, red, blue, red. Okay. So let's do, interesting. So what I want to do is, so these are my, let's assume these are my house colors or whatever. Okay, I'll leave that. Let's assume these are my house colors. And I want to find the total per color. So I want to find this total per column. So I have this long spreadsheet, and I want to say like anything that is blue, I want to find a total. Of course, we know we can use the pivots to do that. But if you want to like, you want to sum if, you use sum if when you want to sum something that has like, that fulfills a particular condition. So in this case, I want to say if this color is blue, if it's blue, add, I can pick the total, add this total together. So you can, if you equal to sum if, once you type in your sum if, you can actually bring out your dialog box by using this fx. Or of course, you can find it using this search box. So I'm saying sum if. So it's asking me, what is my reference? What am I looking for? So I'm looking for, this is my range. This is where it needs to look at. And my criteria is, I want blue. So I click on blue. And then it asks me for my sum range. What's my sum range? My sum range is this. I want you to sum this up. And okay. and the addition is 78025. If we look at the sum of the blue, this is blue and this is blue. If we add this blue together, equal to this plus this, you realize that that is the amount here. I can do the same for green. So if I drag green down, I'm just going to extend my range here. And then that is the sum of my green. So that is, so this is my green. It will be this and this, which is 82,361. So it would be equal to this plus this, enter, 82,361. So that is a sum if. So you're asking sum if sum this data, if this condition is fulfilled. So when I type color in here, there is a mistake with the spelling of this color. And there's a way you can actually review your spreadsheets, because we know when in Word, it would actually underline the word as with red, so you know that that word is spelled wrongly. In Excel, you can do a review, and you can review spelling on the review. So if you click on spelling, it will check your data and make suggestions on the correct pronunciation, correct spelling for those words. So like my color is picked up this color as incorrect, and you can either ignore it. It will pick up names, like unusual names. So you can either ignore it. So if it's like a name and I know the name is correct, I can do like ignore, or if I can do ignore all if I know that I have multiple occurrences of that name on my spreadsheet. But in this case, it's picked up color, so I can just change it. If I know that I've used this color in a lot of cells, I can just do change all, and it will look at everything and change it. So once you change or ignore it, it moves to the next one. And this is a sum if. Sum if is correct is a formula, so I can just ignore all. And then once it's checked everything, spell check complete, you're good to go. So which is another, this is a good, no, I don't want to spell check again. So that's really good to know, because before I knew this, I used to like copy my Excel or Word to see if I have any spelling mistakes, but you can usually now use a review to check the spelling. I don't think we'll be able to go over today because I believe there's another session. There's a session starting at 9. I hope this has been useful. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and I can pick that up quickly. Otherwise, I think the main thing with Excel is just practice. Just play around with it, and before you know it, you'll be a guru. Thanks everyone for logging in tonight. I hope it's been useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you, Yemi. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.